All right, everyone. Welcome back this week to Pick Your Brains. Today I brought someone who I've admired for quite some time on LinkedIn, and she does a lot of wonderful motivational posts. Today I brought you guys Elvi, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Caperonis?
Caperonis.
Caperonis, the career coach. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be here today with all of you.
I'm glad that you're here. So don't worry, it's not a job interview. It's not a job interview. So you don't have to worry about the standard annoying question that's the tell me about yourself, because I think we all know we're tired of that question. So my first question to you is, originally you came from the Dominican Republic, correct?
That's correct.
Normally, I know this just from living in the New York area, because there is a very large Dominican community, but I very much was interested. What was one of the biggest reasons you decided to leave the Dominican Republic?
The Dominican Republic is a very, very beautiful place. It's in my heart. It's in my hometown. It's my country. I love it. Unfortunately, there are not opportunities for everybody out there. Getting a job in an executive position, a management position, is very challenging over there if you don't have connections, or I would say there are no opportunities for everybody. And for you to get in a good position there, you need to have a lot of relationships. I wish that would be different. So when I realized that things were that challenging over there, so I wanted to expand my knowledge. So I applied for a scholarship to go to Madrid, Spain for my master's degree. That was my main motivation initially, to go to a foreign country to pursue a master's degree.
That actually, you just went to my next question, because I do remember from following your content that you've mentioned Spain on a few occasions, and a look on your profile before. Was that degree more highly prestigious than coming to a university here in the States for a master's degree, out of curiosity?
Well, I didn't have the funds to go to university, first of all. I went to university. I was able to graduate from a college degree. I had to find a job and pay for my own expenses. It was challenging. I managed to do it. Right now, I don't know how I did it, but I did it, thank God. To answer your question, why not in the United States? If the United States has so many top universities, and that is a great place. Initially, I wanted to come to the United States, but my scholarship got rejected. So that was my first experience facing rejection in my life. When I was 17 years old, turning 18, I applied to a scholarship to come to the United States to study for a 2 years program, but that application got rejected. Even though I made all the qualifications, I didn't make it. I don't know if I missed the right connection. I don't know what did I like of, because they never gave me feedback. I truly understand what rejection is, and I have faced rejection several times in my career.
That almost, believe it or not, sounds a little similar to me, but the difference between you and me is when I started college all the way back in 2004, I had to work part-time all those years, which would explain on my profile and resume gap why people have seen why it took so long. One thing you just mentioned, us and to the audience who's watching this, not everyone gets to go to a university in 4 years, and graduate in 4 or 5 years to a master's degree. Some of us were not given the right situations to be able to succeed in that. And in fact, you alluded to something else. I had a social worker on this segment about 3 weeks ago, and one thing she mentioned, whether you're a working adult or whether you're a, college student, if you don't have a supportive environment to be able to succeed in a degree program, it's going to take a lot longer.
That's correct.
Unfortunately for me, I've written about this in articles. I've done some posts here and there on different social media about it. But because my parents divorced at 5 years old and I did not have a supportive environment, let's just say that's one of the reasons why also having to work part-time college took 9 years. To acquire 2 degrees was literally for that exact reason, not a very supportive environment. Plus, I had to make a lot of my own decisions.
And on top of that, you have invisible disabilities that none of us can see.
Right. And actually, that's an interesting question because that was something I was curious. I think you may have mentioned this to me. I don't know if it was in message or in text message at one point, but you take care of your husband, and you mentioned your husband has some disabilities. What disabilities does he have?
Yes, he has some disabilities. I don't have to take care of him. Thank God he's able to manage himself very well. He has some vision disabilities, like he doesn't see 100%. He has double vision, and he has some balance issues. He doesn't have 100% of his balance, but thank God he can take care of himself and take care of the kids as well, so I can focus on work.
That's good, because especially in a marriage, that can help you a lot at certain times.
I couldn't do everything I do if I wouldn't have had a supporting husband. He does an amazing job at taking care of everything else, so I can focus on work and moving forward in my career.
So another interesting question I have is, we're not going to reveal to everyone, the name of the places that you worked, but I remember some of your material early on mentioned usually focuses on bad management. So unnamed company in Massachusetts, you mentioned in a post, which alluded to micromanagement being a waste of time. What was your experience with that?
Micromanagement, I believe micromanagement destroys people's motivation and ability to perform at their best. I believe people deserve to be respected for the work they do. They also deserve to have the freedom to do the work they do and to do it at their best. And for us, I believe they need to be empowered as opposed to be micromanaged. I have been into places where leaders believe, or bosses believe, that micromanagement is the right thing. They need to be on top of people. They need to manage people in a way that actually feels like it's a disrespect. But this is definitely not my thing. I believe people need to be empowered. I believe about giving people the tools that they need to succeed, and let them thrive, let them do what they do the best, and give them the freedom to do it in the best way possible. If this relationship is not working for you and your team, you may decide what works better for you in the future. But micromanaging people, I believe, is not the right approach.
I'm going to use a sports analogy, because I don't know if you watch baseball or not, since that's very big on the Dominican Republic, and even between Massachusetts and New York, everyone loves baseball. But I can use many sports as an example. But this one specifically comes to mind. If you want to look at an organization in the National Football League, which is a perfect example of this, look no further than the Dallas Cowboys. They always assemble probably the best talent you can think of, but their president and owner, who came from the oil industry, overmanages things so much, and then they wonder why they have lackluster results. He's like involved in every aspect of the organization, when, to be honest, especially at that level, he should really just be, doing the high level important stuff, not being a president and a general manager at the same time. And there's been examples where he's hired 2 of his most successful head coaches. The head coaches got him to the Super Bowl. He overmanages things, and what did they do? They just left.
Yes. And they leave you when you need them the most. When you treat people
And
like this, they leave you when you need them the most.
exactly. And if they just went to signing the checks, it would just be much better for everybody else, especially at least at that level in sports. And so everyone's well aware. I did a little post earlier about this, but besides advocating for, people on the spectrum, one of my other biggest loves happens to be sports. There's not a lot of posts about it on LinkedIn, but you can equate a lot of the issues that we're having nowadays to what goes on in the sports world as well. Somebody's always getting underpaid. There are just people who are not in the right positions. And sports is a good example to look at how even Fortune 500 businesses are run.
Totally agree with you. I believe this is not the right answer.
So, one of your positions was a business intelligence consultant. What skills carried over to what you do now from that role?
Let me make sure I understand the question. You want to better understand what is the experience that I believe has been the most valuable in my career?
Yes, that's what I'm sort of alluding to, because you work with a lot of data, if I'm correct, right? In what you've done?
Yes, my career started as a business intelligence engineer. I in Madrid, Spain, when I finished my master's degree, my final project for my master, you need to defend your project. You need to create a project, final project in your master's degree. I don't know if you call this thesis here in the United States.
Capstone project is the term.
Capstone project, the capstone project. Yes, I had to do a capstone project for my MBA here in the United States. So my capstone project in my master's degree was developing a business intelligence system for a banking institution, because I have experience in banking from the Dominican Republic. So I designed that system as part of my capstone project. And while I was creating that project, I started looking for jobs as a business intelligence professional. And I am very appreciative that one consulting firm gave me the chance when I didn't have any experience. I had zero experience. That consulting firm, I give them shout out because they were very significant in my career, and they actually opened the door. They opened the door for me to start a career. And now you're giving me an idea for my next post. I should shout them out. They gave me the chance when I had zero experience in business intelligence. Within a week, I was able to show them and prove to them that I was the right candidate that they hired. I was able to start wrapping myself up as soon as possible, and I delivered results within a week. So people deserve a chance. I cannot stress enough that people with zero experience who have the right attitude deserve an opportunity to put their foot on the door and deliver value and show the value that they have to add to an organization.
So please make sure you tag me in that, since I gave you the idea for it as we were discussing this, because that would be helpful. And then actually you alluded to something. When I started coming on this platform more 2 years ago, since that's how long we've been interacting together, I had a video chat with somebody in another country. It happened to be Nigeria. And one of the problems for me before I got my current opportunity, but I realized two things. First, with me, the only reason I have my current opportunity is due to the fact that I've been in retail for so long, in between retail and customer service for so long, with office experience along the way in internships. But I ended up with the customer service stigma. So when I did a video call with this person through Skype about 2 years ago, she determined that everything I did in retail could be basically project management, right? No one wanted to hire me for those roles because they don't understand how retail or warehousing experience fully translates over into an office, and it really does. So imagine up until last year, me having to explain that to a recruiter or a hiring manager who's never worked in a warehouse before.
Got it.
And what you just said, if The people who would only understand this would have had to work in retail or a warehouse at one previous time in their life to be able to understand that I do have all the same, I do have all the same ability to be able to work in an office just like you do.
Absolutely. Totally with you on that.
But they don't get, those recruiters have not been in a retail job before. There are some, or there's at least one person on here that I know down in New Jersey who worked in a call center and said she had to completely redo her resume for that. Now, your current job, you work at a very large tech company. We're not going to obviously name the tech company, but one of the questions that I asked you about earlier in the week, if you wouldn't mind talking about it, is what does a program manager do?
Very good question. Some people confuse program manager and technical program manager. These are two different things. A program manager manages a project end to end. Any kind of project. It could be a project related to infrastructure, home real estate. It could be any project. The program manager manages project. There are program managers that are specific to a given topic, but if you have the idea, if you have experience, if you understand what program management entitles, most of the time you are able to manage any kind of project. A technical program manager, which is the title that I have, manages technical projects within the software space. Tell me about technical projects. Do you need to build an app? I am a TPM. I can help you and guide you to build an app with my project management and program management skills. End to end, the software development cycle is what we talk about here. In a program management, there are different phases in a program management. You initiate the project, you plan the project, you execute, you monitor, and you end the project until you deliver the final outcome of the project. These are the program management cycle or phases, however you're gonna call it. In a software development space, you have phases for the program management, but you also have phases within the software development cycle. Is that clear? So on top of dealing also with the program management activities within the software space, you need to understand and articulate things that happen within. You need to be able to talk to an engineer, for instance. If you would have to talk to an engineer, you need to understand their language. So a TPM understands the language of an engineer. A TPM can design an application end to end with the help of an engineer. A TPM can understand an architecture of a system and look for loopholes or areas for improvement. We're talking
Did you
about
have to did you have to learn scripting languages for this position?
Well, initially, no, you don't need to be a coder. If that's what you're asking, you don't need to be a coder. I'm an expert in
No,
SQL.
but even data analytics,
SQL.
even a data analytics position requires some proficiency with
Yes.
SQL, Python. Believe me, I've looked at these jobs for myself, and I'm even looking internally right now at what's required. Someone SQL.
Yes, for business intelligence engineer, I needed to know SQL. For being a TPM, it is good if you know coding, but you're not required to know coding. You are required to understand the components of an architecture. You are required to understand system design. You are required to understand program management. You are required to lead without authority. You are required to have conversations with different stakeholders. You are required to communicate where you are on a given state of a project. You are actually required to resolve conflicts sometimes between engineers or between your team or maybe outside of your team. As a technical program manager, you also do risk assessment, like any program manager does risk assessment, but your risk may be different than any other kind of project. But a TPM, a technical program manager is, think of it like a technical program manager is a program manager who specializes in software engineering projects, mostly.
Is this where another good question I would have is, because I've seen this before and you had encouraged it at one point 2 years ago when we were in the early stages of interaction, Agile and Scrum.
Agile and Scrum.
I was looking into it, but I wouldn't mind if you told us again what they were and were they helpful in what you're doing, especially?
That's a very good question, Ben. You're not interviewing me, are you? These are questions.
I know,
questions,
but it would help me it would allow all of us to kind of understand some of that stuff you were talking about just within the program management role.
At TPM, if you there are two approaches for software for program management, and I'm talking about software development. So in general, program management itself has two main areas. Like you could follow the waterfall approach. In the waterfall approach, you work by phases. Your first phase, for instance, it could be requirements gathering. You don't start development until all the requirements are in place, because one phase needs to be finished until you start another. It goes by phases, and one depends on another. Any questions so far?
No, that was actually very clear.
Okay. in Scrum, in Agile is a mindset. Agile is a mindset that comes from the Agile Manifesto. In 2001, the Agile Manifesto got written by 20 software development engineer gurus. They were experts on the area, and they met in Utah because they wanted to understand why so many software development projects were failing. And they came up with the Agile Manifesto. You can Google the Agile Manifesto. The Agile Manifesto has 4 core values and 12 principles. And if you follow those principles, the main idea behind Agile is that you work in an iterative approach. You deliver what we call a minimum viable product. What is the minimum thing? What is the smallest thing that you can build that you could put in front of your customers, have your customers use it and give you feedback? And then you keep iterating based on the feedback that you get from your customer and enhancing that product until that product actually has all the features that your customers are looking for. This is Agile. This is working as you go with your customer, getting feedback, improving as you go, and delivering at the end of delivering within every single cycle. In Waterfall, you deliver your product all at the end. Your customers don't see what you're building until the very end. In Agile, you are continuously delivering to your customer. So, any questions so far?
Nope. And I like the clear explanations as well.
Got it. Scrum, because you're asking about what is Agile and what is Scrum. This is Agile. Working with your customers, getting feedback, improving along the way. Agile is a mindset that is based on the Agile Manifesto and the 5 core values and the 12 principles that you can get more informed about if you need more information.
Those early lectures that I sat through with you were also very informative when you did that back in 2020. So it was actually great to hear this again.
Awesome.
In a different setting, of course.
All of this is going to be available to all my audience. Stay tuned that I'm building something for all of you.
And I'm looking forward to that too, actually, because on a good note, I came up with two extra ideas after what you and I spoke about, and they're all going to be launched at completely different times. Okay, one is going to focus.
Let's talk offline about those ideas.
Oh, of course.
Them until you have them in something that you can launch them.
All right, so now we're going to move on to what I introduced you as first and foremost, which is now I would like to learn about your career coaching business.
And we haven't finished yet.
True. All right, finish up.
Agile is the mindset of working with your customer, getting feedback and delivering a product that meets your customer's expectations. Why is this is important? Because you keep building, getting feedback, and at the end, your customer doesn't get surprised of what you're delivering because they know what you're working on and they have been giving you feedback that you incorporate in your product. And the framework to do that is named Scrum. Scrum gives you a framework for you to follow Agile consistently. It could be ambiguous for people who don't have exposure to that. Was that clear?
Yes. All right. So now that we've gained an understanding of that, let's talk about your business, which was really the main reason we brought you here today, was so you could tell us your story on what made you become a career coach,
That's a
or
very
what
good
led you
question.
to
Thank
that
you.
decision.
That is in my heart. You know, I have noticed that people need help, Ben. I believe I've been giving some gifts that I want to share with the world. Like I want to help people prepare for job interviews. I want to help people to boost their self-confidence. I want to motivate and encourage people. I saw that in 2020, when I started, when I became a career coach, I became a career coach because I saw people struggling. I saw people on LinkedIn getting laid off from jobs. I saw a lot of people on LinkedIn needing help, and I started offering my help, and I started putting my content out there, and people started liking my content, and I keep putting content, and my community has been growing. I have a 60,000+ community right now on LinkedIn that is following my content, and I am very grateful for every single one of them. You are one of them. Thank you so much, Ben. Truly appreciate your support.
Oh, no problem. And it's
I am
funny
there
because
to help people. I am there to help people.
I was going to say something, because as I've been tracking my own following, and my profile has been viewed 2,316 times, over a 2-year span. I have over 5,000 actual connections, and I'm keeping it where I'm keeping it, because some people have told me it's not about, how big the following is. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, okay. No, that was the cloud being funny. I have over 5,000 connections now with 500 followers. So it is what it is. I like the size of what I have, and I'm not trying to get large like that. I like where I am. But my own following has really grown that big, and that was in large part thanks to you.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm here to help you in any ways I can.
Oh, no, I know that. And that's one of the actual reasons why I'm happy that you came on today. Is that your little daughter?
That is my little son. I'm trying to hide his face in case you don't want to show.
It's okay. We have a cuteness invasion.
He needs to be with mommy. He needs mommy.
All right. So now that you told us about that, probably one of my largest questions is, what was the certification and licensing process like for becoming a career coach?
That's a very good question. I actually took an online course that is done by an online academy. I can share the details with you. I took it online, and I got certified that way. It's right now there are no regulations for becoming a career coach.
That's the other thing that I don't like, where I respect you because you at least went to get the credentials. And that says something, because I'm not going to go naming names, but the type of people who I think make good career coaches are like you, getting a credential that makes sense. Somebody who's been a recruiter or a hiring manager before. I see people on LinkedIn who have none of those, but all of a sudden decided to start a firm. You know what I mean?
Everybody deserves a chance, man.
They do. But a big part of it is when you mentioned there's no regulations.
There is no regulation. Yeah, there is no regulation.
That also creates, opportunities which some people might not be, all that happy with, the work of that coach.
Totally understand. Totally understand.
That's more what I was trying to get to. You have a pure reason because you went through the licensing process of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I help people based on my work experience. I was able to be hired for several amazing firms. So I teach people with what I know that have worked for me and what have worked for other people. I have helped people to get hired by companies like Facebook, uh, Coinbase, several other organizations that I don't have by the top of my mind, but I am here to help people. And every time somebody calls me and tells me I got the job, I that makes my day. That's the reason I became a career coach. I want to help people to get hired.
And let's see, one more question I would actually have based on the career coaching business is, do you use other platforms besides LinkedIn? Because I think I saw you were on Instagram. How would you say that's going?
Thank you so much. I'm not that active as I would like to be on Instagram, but I'm trying to build my audience there too. And as my schedule permits, I try to put content out there too. It's a little bit different than LinkedIn, but they're sharing my knowledge as well.
That's great to hear. And then let's see, do I have anything else that we've pretty much, all right. The most important thing I would like to ask you today is branding advice. And by branding advice, basically, I've seen a lot of this on LinkedIn where a lot of it is showing up, but what branding advice would you give to someone who wants to start a business versus someone who's seeking a job?
Very good question, Ben. Some people don't understand what is branding. What is branding in a social media setting? In a social media setting, branding is how people know you and respect you. It's your reputation on the network. I highly recommend people to start building their personal brand on social media because it's a lot. You want to build your community before you need your community. If you're thinking about starting a business, I recommend you to start getting connected to people. Polish your LinkedIn profile. Have a very solid LinkedIn profile because LinkedIn is the professional network. If your business is going to be professional, you want to be on LinkedIn and you want to put content about the kind of content that you want to be recognized for. Highly recommend people to have a solid profile, a very professional picture. You can look at my latest article on how to have a polished LinkedIn profile. Highly recommend people to engage with big influencers on LinkedIn in a professional manner. And highly recommend people to share their struggle as well, because I started sharing my struggle and I've been rejected and people actually relate with the human being. They want to be connected to another human being. So sharing your pain, your sorrow, your challenges, other people may connect with you that way. It's not only to share the good news out there. We need to share everything because life is a mix of everything.
On Facebook, before I lost both my profiles, but at this point, most people didn't like when somebody complained. Now, when you do this in the right way on LinkedIn, I would most definitely agree with you. I think on a platform like LinkedIn, sharing certain things makes sense. For example, I got laid off from my job. I'm sure you saw what happened with companies like, the big online mortgage company, laying off almost 4,000 people.
Very sad. Yeah, very sad.
And that he wasn't the only one. There was another big name company that was doing that also, but the 4,000 layoff got the largest headlines because he did it not once, but he did it twice. First time it was 400 people. Second time it was 3,000. Or actually, no, 399, 3999. I don't know why, it got to that much, but that's not someone I think anyone would want to work for now.
It's really sad.
And then let's see, anything else from my list that I wanted to know? At this point, you have done a very good job today, and I'm glad that you came by the show to share your life, your story up to now, your career advice, and the most important thing at the end, which was the whole branding thing. Now, one thing I would just like to know out of mere curiosity, for this very last question is, for someone who's basically working on a podcast, facilitating a podcast, managing a podcast as a project, can that look good to companies, in your opinion?
It depends. If you are actually working professionally, why not? It depends on the company as well. Some companies support that you have your personal life. You work for a company, but your life doesn't necessarily mean that you always live for that company. You have other things in your life. So if companies understand that actually people need and deserve life and work balance, because during your time off, you can do whatever you believe is good for you, as long as you don't never use the name of your company, because a company have a reputation that it's your personal story, it's your personal life. It depends on the company. Some companies are very supportive to that, others may not be, but it's up to you to express that after you finish your work, day-to-day work, is your life starts there, your life. So you need to set the boundaries.
That would definitely be true, because that's the one thing I've noticed a lot of people are saying at work, which is, where's the work-life balance? I'll use me as an example, and even with this project, I work in what we would consider a call center type of role. So all my work basically gets done on the incoming or outgoing phone call. And then when I go home on weekends, I'm, coming and doing this now. So this actually refreshes me after a long, tiring week and gets me re-motivated, going into a new week every week. And this is something that I enjoy doing now, actually, and look forward to on the weekends. Actually, I did come across something I forgot to ask. Did career coaching then allow you to go into keynote speaking?
That's a very good question. Career coaching, no, but LinkedIn did. Sharing my story on LinkedIn has allowed some companies to reach out to me for keynote speaking.
That's good, because actually that's one of the things that I'm trying to position myself to do right now as I begin to prep. We're slowly migrating the videos over to my YouTube channel, and we're looking at potentially 1 to 2 other platforms, one for just complete separate recordings. And then we're trying to find, a good backup for all the videos. So basically, like I said, this project for me has been very helpful in, getting me through the last year, getting me through the tail end of the pandemic. One thing I will just say before we end this is, before the pandemic, like you, and I didn't spend enough time on this platform, LinkedIn, to be able to see how beneficial it has been. During the pandemic, it started to help me go through, small little sub chapters the last 2 years. And today, I think being on this platform has allowed me to see more possibilities for my own life than, what happened with me in the last decade.
LinkedIn is amazing.
The last decade, I'm going to end on this. My biggest regret to the audience for being someone on the spectrum was not listening to the right people. This was something I was just reflecting on today. You'll see a post that I did a little earlier where a lot of people talk about, they go to a career coach because they have a dream job, right? There was a dream that I had, but unfortunately, within the last decade, listening to the wrong people steered me off course. So now that I have, this platform, and now that I've come across people like you, it's allowed me to finally prep a project and be able to have talks with people like you. And because of that, I'm very grateful.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
So I hope you guys enjoyed our guest today. I hope everyone learned something. And last but not least, I'll see you guys at the next interview.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Justin. Give it a second.